everyone. I wanted to make a quick video and do a lesson on money mindset and setting your fees. Now, one of the most common things that happens to early private practice or even group practice owners is that we undercharge for our services. There's a myriad of reasons as to why that may be the case, but typically we don't know our own worth and our own value, and we just feel bad. It's super awkward going from working from a full-time agency in a W-2 position, getting a steady paycheck, but never having to necessarily talk money with clients. If you're working at an agency, that paycheck is probably coming from insurance payments or whatever else that agency is making money from, whether it's self-pay or insurance, but you're not handling money directly with the patient. In private practice, when you work for someone else's private practice, they are also paying you. Right? The practice is paying you, the clients are not paying you directly. So when you transition into owning your own private practice, it can feel really uncomfortable because you set the fees, you are responsible for maintaining getting payment from those clients, and also setting a no-show or cancellation fee, which can be really uncomfortable early on, and so on and so forth. And so what I often see happening with newer practice owners or people in private practice, group practice, or solo is that they are undercharging because they feel bad. We have been doing this work for a period of time, not for the money, right? Therapists and social workers notoriously are overworked and underpaid. So transitioning into private practice can feel kind of like culture shock because now it's a completely different business culture. You are responsible for the money that you're making. And each client and each hour that you're working is money in your pocket. And that can feel confusing because I feel like we're almost conditioned to believe that doing good work means being underpaid. I'm doing this work because of my why, not for money. And while that is true, for some of us at least, that was true for me, going into private practice incurs its own expenses, right? There's overhead, whether it's for your electronic medical record, a lawyer, an accountant, a physical space, malpractice insurance, etc. You have more expenses owning your own business than you do working at a practice or an agency. So these are all really important things to think about. It was always really important for me to have therapy be accessible to clients. And so what that looks like for me is I was credentialed with Medicaid. That was an incredibly underserved population, and it still is. And a lot of therapists don't like working with Medicaid for a whole lot of reasons. Now, if you don't want to work with Medicaid because they don't pay well, if you think about it like this, in the state of Maryland, one Medicaid session is $100. That's what you're getting from insurance. One Care First, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, whatever that may be, in Maryland is $103.34. So really, by accepting Medicaid, I'm not really lowering my prices, I'm just making it much more accessible. So affordability means making it affordable to the client. But on the other hand, you have sustainability, which means covering your own costs and your future growth. And so yeah, if I could just do pro bono counseling or create this on a totally pro bono level because I was completely financially independent or independently wealthy and I just had a trust fund, which is fine if that's the case, then maybe I would do this for free. But that's not the case. I still need an income. The amount of money that I put into creating the Thriving Practice Academy was substantial. I worked with a company to develop and brand the website. I'm paying Circle for their platform to do these courses. And so as I continue to grow the Thriving Practice Academy, I will incur more cost. And so for me, the sweet spot is about balancing affordability or accessibility with sustainability and figuring out what that number is for you. In terms of balancing affordability and sustainability, there's a couple ways to go about that. First of all, really getting a clear budget for what your costs are and your expenses, and then what you're making. How much will you need to make to break even? How much will you need to make to actually make a profit? And so at Rose Wellness, we do have a sliding scale option for people that don't have insurance or who have an insurance that we're not in network with. And so we have a sliding scale application, and my lawyer created updated it, and it goes with the federal poverty guidelines of 2025, like the most recent ones. And so it's standardized across the whole practice. That means that as a group practice owner, even with 1099 contractors, it's actually unethical to have some clinicians charging this sliding scale rate while other clinicians doing another one. If there isn't a standardized version that actually opens up to client malpractice suits and a whole lot of other things. I didn't know that at all. I had my lawyer explain that to me because we used to just do things willy-nilly, and now we don't. Another thing that we do at Rose Wellness is we sometimes waive the no-show / late cancellation fee. So our late cancellation fee is that if you cancel with less than 24 hours before your appointment. That's a pretty common one. Some people do 48 hours, 72 hours. I'm sure you've seen at maybe a massage studio, salon? No, a massage studio, whatever, a massage place, or any kind of like business, like a doctor's office. They usually have a no-show or late cancellation fee. So ours is 24 hours, and if it's a no-show, it's a no-show. The clinician waits, I believe, 15 minutes. Now, sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. So if a client is like, hey, I'm so sorry, like I've been in a car accident and I've been in the hospital, we're not going to charge them a no-show or late cancellation fee, right? I usually just tell clinicians to use their discretion. And if I notice that someone is waiving the fee every single time with a client that has a pattern or a history of no-shows or late cancellations, it's worth talking to the clinician about and just figuring out what's coming up for them. It's often that they just feel pretty badly because talking about money or enacting any kind of boundary is uncomfortable. As a therapist, it's our job to broach those boundary violations that are coming up rather than enabling the client's continued behavior. Additionally, if someone continues to no-show or late cancel, like that's your schedule. You allotted that time and you're not just going to fill it in with another client. And so remembering that while we're in the business of doing good and doing good work, it also still is business, and it's okay to value ourselves and our time like that. I know for me, that really just took time. It took time and experience to get comfortable saying, these are our policies. You sign these intake documents, we went over them. Unfortunately, that's just like how it is. And this can be really uncomfortable, but it's worth just exploring in yourself and looking at what's blocking you from maintaining those boundaries if you anticipate that that's going to be difficult for you. Like most of our clients, most therapists probably have an interesting relationship with money, right? I think it's more rare than it is common for people to just have a really healthy kind of objective relationship with money. For me, money meant worth or success having to do with my inherent self-worth. I mean, there was just so much tied into it. Depending on how we grew up, how money and talking about money was modeled to us, or maybe it wasn't talked about at all, right? We all carry our own baggage, for lack of a better term, into our businesses with our relationship with money. And so the best work that we can do is healing our maybe faulty relationship with money. And so how to talk about it with a client looks like being really transparent, being really direct and objective about it. Like, yeah, I know it's kind of a lot, but I feel like my fee is this and I feel bad. It's like, no, yeah, this is my standard fee. If you'd like to fill out a sliding scale application to see if you meet the criteria, I'm more than happy to send you that, right? We're direct, we're objective, we're compassionate, but we're not like flaky about it. Like, well, I guess it's okay, because as we probably know from our training or our experience, or maybe we've done this ourselves in therapy, a client will push the boundaries. Not all clients, but some. And so if they continuously no-show or late cancel and you're not charging, that's why. You know, it's also really normal to raise your fees every year or every couple of years. Inflation is real. And so just checking in with yourselves, go through this lesson, look through some of the prompts, looking at, you know, what's my relationship with money and setting my prices? And if it feels really foreign and uncomfortable, maybe go through a bunch of therapist psychology todays who live in your area and look at what their standard fees are, or look at who they're in network with in terms of insurance. And it's a really helpful way to just gauge, oh, okay, like if most therapists in my area are charging $150, but I know my worth and I'm going to charge $400. I mean, that's a personal choice, like good for you, but again, is it accessible? Is it affordable? Probably not. And so for me, I looked at other people's, and when I first started, my self-pay rate was $125. It was lower than most everyone else's, but it was what I was comfortable doing. In hindsight, I definitely was undercharging, but I needed to get more experience under my belt to feel confident in charging more than that. By the time I stopped seeing clients, my self-pay rate was $175. That sounds like a lot. I mean, even saying it now, I'm like, wow, that's a lot. But then I think about what I've paid therapists for self-pay therapy when I know they're good and I've been referred to them from word of mouth. And it holds up, especially if you do have a niche specialty like EMDR, right? Like you've paid for that training, you've paid for your master's degree, loans or not. And so you've put the time and the effort in. And so this whole process is about leaning into our worth and our value and knowing that it might be uncomfortable broaching money with clients. Also, maybe it won't be. Maybe you're super confident in this. And so you're listening to this and you're like, I don't relate at all. That's great too. For most of us, it is kind of an uncomfortable transition, and it's just more opportunity for growth.